a lot of service failures are self-imposed, where they're not actually wrongdoings that the business has done, but they're things that the guest perceives to be a service failure.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going fantastically, Josh. How are you?
I am doing well. Welcome to another Attraction Pros Minisode.
Minisode. I feel like we should have fireworks or something.
That's what I was doing. If you're watching on video, my hands are making firework. I was going to say firework noises, but that's what I was doing with my mouth. If you're listening audio only, you're like, what's going on right now?
Exactly.
So I want to talk about something.
Okay.
And I want to know your thoughts, and I want to know the thoughts of every single person watching and listening to this, because this is a conversation I've been having now for, at the time of this recording, close to a month, actually. And it was something that came up in a training workshop that I was doing, and there were mixed feelings about it initially. And so I have been sort of reflecting on it and kind of letting it marinate. And I'm now bringing it up in every workshop that I've done since then, actually. So, and it seems to be very, very well received, but it is something that is maybe a different way of thinking than our default thought process.
Okay.
So there was a big setup where I told you nothing, right? So this has to do with service recovery, which, as you know, is one of, if not my favorite thing to talk about when it comes to guest experience and everything we do from a hospitality standpoint. So here's the issue that was brought up in this workshop. A guest arrived at the entrance to an attraction and they bought their tickets online. Now, when you buy your tickets online, you are doing so to save yourself time when you arrive, because you do not need to buy tickets when you arrive. And if it is a capacity restricted attraction, you know you've got guaranteed entry at the time that you selected XYZ, right? So the majority of attractions, when you get there, there's a ticket line, and then there's an entry line, right? You have to wait in 2 lines before you even get in. Some of them 3 lines if you're at the toll booth waiting to get into the parking lot, right? So you have to wait in 3 lines before you get into, some of the major amusement parks, right? Or zoos, or or some big attractions. So in this particular instance, the guest misunderstood what they purchased. They misread the website. So on the website, the verbiage was something like buy online and skip the ticket line when you arrive. And when the guest arrived, they walked up and saw that there was about a 20-minute wait to enter the attraction. And so they found a team member. They said, hey, where do I go with my ticket? And the team member said, oh, you're right here. This is the queue. And they said, no, I bought my ticket online, where it said, buy your ticket online and skip the line. So the guest thought they were buying some sort of almost like a VIP experience, right? Or like a VIP entry experience, at least, right? That they buy their tickets and they go, straight up to the front. They didn't realize that they were just bypassing the line to buy the ticket because they've already bought the ticket online, right? And so this came up in conversation in this training workshop, and we talked through it, and it brings up this idea that a lot of service failures are self-imposed, where they're not actually wrongdoings that the business has done, but they're things that the guest perceives to be a service failure. So I asked how long was the wait to get into the attraction, and the team member said it's about 20 minutes. And I said, okay, is that a long time? What's the, was this your peak time? Whatever it was. He said, no, it was pretty average. When it's peak, it can be about, 45 minutes to an hour or so. Now, if you wait 20 minutes when you're expecting an hour, that's a very pleasant experience, right? That exceeds your expectation. But if you wait 20 minutes when you were expecting 0 minutes, you perceive that to be a massive service failure.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the overarching topic that I've now kind of labeled this as, and it is consider the cost of not recovering. And really actually consider the cost of both, but really play out what the circumstance looks like. So I said to this team member, because they wanted to know what should they do in that particular instance. They don't owe the guest anything. The guest bought their ticket. They bypassed the ticket line, which I think like there was nobody in line at that time, but now there's this 20-minute wait. So when we walked through it, I said, okay, if you do nothing, so the cost of not recovering is that the guest and their group, they wait for 20 minutes and they talk about how upset they are. And now that continues to fester and bubbles up. And by the time they get into the venue, into the attraction, they're already in a sour mood, which means that now that trash can's overflowing and that soap dispenser is empty. And the quality of the experience is not what I expected to be. And now the team members aren't as enthusiastic as I wanted them to be. And when they leave, they're going to say, this wasn't the experience that I expected. I am not likely to return, and I'm likely to post a negative review or at least share negative word of mouth, which then can impact the reputation and deter other people from visiting as well. So that's the cost of not recovering. And then I said, what would be the cost of recovering? I said, I'm not telling you that this is the answer. All I'm doing is saying, this is the thought process that I want you to think about, is that let's say you said to the guest, oh, this is the wait. You bought your ticket online. It bypasses the ticket line, which is over there. This is now just the line to get into the entrance. And if they say, no, let me show you on the website where it says buy your ticket online and skip the line. And if you were to look at that and say, go through the last model, listen, apologize, solve, and thank of service recovery, and say, I can completely understand that you would be frustrated if you felt like you were getting a VIP entry ticket with the ticket you purchased in line. And so you're letting the guest be right in that they are frustrated. You're not telling them, oh yeah, the website's misleading. You're also not telling them, no, you misread it. You're empathizing with them and allowing them to at least recognize that they kind of made that mistake, right? Or at least that they would be frustrated if that was the circumstance that they were in. As we lead to what that solution would be, if you were to say, since you did buy that, since you did think that, now that you can see what the layout is, you do understand what the operation looks like and what our entry flow looks like. I'm going to take you up this one time because I want to make sure that you have the experience that you thought you were purchasing. And assuming this doesn't negatively impact any other guest's experience, it's not like a group of 50 people all, if it's like 3 people, whatever it is, that they've got the ability to go in. And then at that point, now the guest feels like a VIP. So by the time they get into the experience, now they're a little bit lighter. Now that overflowing trash can goes unnoticed. Now that empty soap dispenser in the bathroom isn't as big of a deal anymore. Now the quality experience, has risen, and it sets the stage for there to be a positive experience on the whole. That when they do leave, they say there was this issue, and then there was the service recovery from it, which can be more memorable than their frustration was at the beginning of that experience. So that's the mindset that I'm starting to talk a lot more about, is simply play out both scenarios of this is what will happen with the guest if I don't recover, and this is what will happen with the guest if I do. What do those look like? Because for that individual team member, all they had to say is, nope, this is the line. I'm sorry if you misread the website or if you thought something else, but this is the experience. But let me know if I can assist you in any other way, right? Or anything like that. Even if you say it nicely, then it still causes that frustration afterwards. So playing it out from the guest's point of view. So I would love to hear your mindset and your kind of your takeaways from this.
So my thought actually goes back to our episode on lessons from Iceland, because
you went to Iceland.
Yeah, you didn't know?
I
Yeah.
did.
Anyway, because we had 2 situations very much like this.
Yeah.
One of those situations, we got some wrong information told to us, not through our fault at all. We showed up someplace, and they didn't open for another hour, but they could accommodate, because they were getting ready and everything. And I remember vividly what that person said is they said, it's not fair that you got the wrong information, right? And that's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about the person that got, maybe misread or misinterpreted what was on the website. Maybe it was a little misleading, to skip every line without qualifying that. So that's what I started thinking of. Like, the end result of that was to do the right thing. And I think that's exactly what you are advocating here. Like, think about what the impact is going to be, that long-term impact. If you do nothing, if you just stick to your guns and say, you read the website wrong, this is what it is, this is the line you have to stand in, I think you're totally on point by saying now every little thing becomes magnified. Everything that's potentially wrong becomes magnified. On the flip side of that, if they're walking in happy-go-lucky, they got the VIP treatment, now all those little things don't necessarily matter as much. In fact, they didn't even know it. They put on some rose-colored glasses because now everything's going to look much better as they go through. The wait in lines aren't going to be nearly as bad. The wait for food isn't going to be as bad. The burger that they thought was going to have condiments on it didn't. And, oh, I got to walk over here to get my ketchup and mustard. Not a big deal. You know what I mean? So all that, it has such an emotional toll on people. And here's the worst part, is that people will recognize that I screwed up, but we don't want to a lot of times take that responsibility or that accountability because that's embarrassing to us. So I think a lot of times when people they're complaining or they're getting heated with a team member, it's long past the fact of what actually went wrong. Now I'm upset with myself, but I cannot give into this. I cannot give into that embarrassment. So I'm going to keep taking it out on you. It must be you. Now I want to talk to your manager, right? Mm-hmm. So I am totally on board with playing this out, really thinking about what that impact is going to be. I go back to, I'm glad you brought up, what if you just took them to the front of the line this one time, or you took them in a back entrance, or you somehow got them past that line because that's what they were expecting. And if you have it in your power to do that, why not? Again, if it doesn't impact other people negatively, for sure. So that's again why I go back to those experiences from Iceland, because we heard twice, it's not fair that XYZ happened. It's not your fault that this happened. So I'm going to do the right thing and take care of it. Did somebody in their excitement to buy that ticket where it says, oh, skip the line, cool, they thought something different? Not their fault, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they read it that way. So now what do? We can't go back and tell them to read the website again. We can't go back and think about that. Think about that next time you buy a ticket. But what we can do is take care of it in the moment and do what we think is right.
Yep. And the other thing too is I asked this team member, I said, how often does this happen? Yeah. And he said, for me, it's happened twice since I started working here. I said, how long have you worked here? He said 6 months. And I said, okay, so this happens 4 times a year. It happens once a quarter. Is it going to cause a really major negative impact to the business if you do this once a quarter, 4 times a year for somebody who may potentially have misread the website? And by the way, if that frequency rises, guess what? The website's misleading.
Yes.
if it was substantially more than that, if it happens every single day, then we actually have a larger issue on our hand that we need to revise the communication of it. But if it is something that is so infrequent that we can take on the service recovery, almost treat it like it's a wow moment and give that guest that experience, we're making the guest happy and we're avoiding the negative consequences on the other end of it. And it's going to alleviate probably a lot of the pressure from your other team members that now they're going to no longer take out other frustrations about other things on other individuals.
So I have a question back to you on that. Speaking of that website that may be misleading, if that team member had said, that whatever that phrase you said, I can understand your frustration, getting that impression of what the website said. I'm going to go back and I'm going to give marketing that feedback so that it doesn't happen again. I think to me that's good, but if it never changes, if that website never changes, then you've just told the guests something that's going to happen that's not. But I also feel like there's a way to phrase that says, we're going to look into it. I can't guarantee there's going to be something that is fixed, but sometimes that's what people want to hear too. So how would you recommend people go about that phrasing?
Well, the first part of it is only saying it if that's going to be the case. If you say,
Yes.
I'm going to forward it, whether it's to marketing or whatever department is impacted in any other issue, for their review and further action. And if the guest says, well, what are they going to do? Then that's when you can say, well, I can't speak on their behalf, but I can at least tell you what I'm going to do about it. And then the way that should look like on the back end is you do that. And then those departments say, they look at it, they might say, this is an issue or this is not an issue. And they take that action and whatever it is. I used to hear that all the time, or used to get guests ask that all the time if they had a guest complain about a particular team member or employee. Mm-hmm. And would say to them, this particular, if I was working in guest services, I've forwarded this to the leadership in the attractions department, and food and beverage, or merchandise, or or whatever it is for their action. And the guest says, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to discipline the team member? I've even had guests write emails back, say, hey, I'm just following up on this. I want to make sure that team member was fired. And I'm like I mentioned, this is what I did. We don't discuss internal action, particularly if it is related to discipline, but I can tell you what I did with it, and I can let them know if you want to hear back. So then at that point, if the guest wants to speak with the department head, then hopefully that answer is consistent of, I've received the feedback, thank you so much. I can assure you what you described does not meet the standard that we expect from our team members. Again, now I've switched this to kind of a guest complaint about, about a team member, and we've addressed this on our end.
Awesome.
Yeah. That should be it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you set the expectation when you first started telling this tale that you wanted to hear from everybody. So I'm going to put that challenge out there. I'm going to drop the gauntlet. Everybody needs to write in somewhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, send us the email, attractionpros@gmail.com. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. What would you have done in that same situation?
Yes, we're also on X and Instagram too.
Yeah.
So yes, please tell us what you think about this. And also, if you like this episode format and if you want to hear more minisodes from us, please let us know. And if there's any minisode topic you want us to cover. We used to do those mailbag episodes way back at the beginning.
We did.
Yeah, nobody sends us mail anymore. I wonder why. I should go check the mailbox. Yeah.
We should. We should.
But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching and listening. And just remember, we are all Attraction Pros.
Thanks for listening to the Attraction Pros podcast.
Make sure to subscribe so you can tune in when new episodes release. And even better, please leave us a review on iTunes.
For more information, visit attractionpros.com.